Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Glory here, and today's video is going to be all about how I passed my NCLEX in 60 questions. So if you're interested in how I did it and want to see more, just keep on watching. Okay, so before we get into this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it's free $99 and why the hell not? So go ahead and subscribe to your girl. This is me giving you time to subscribe, so go ahead. Let's get right into this video. Okay, so for those of you who do not know what the NCLEX is, the NCLEX is a state exam or national exam that you take in order to get your RN license to be a registered nurse and to practice. So because of the coronavirus and everything that's been going on, they actually changed the NCLEX exam. So it used to be that you had a minimum of 75 questions and a maximum of, I believe, 265. Yeah, 265 questions. So that was what it used to be like pre-coronavirus. So now, because of the coronavirus situation and an effort to minimize how much time you're going to be in the testing center, they changed it to 60 questions minimum, and the maximum, I believe, is 130 questions. So when I heard that, I was excited as hell because who wants to sit there for a full 265, right? Exactly. So just so you guys have a little bit of background on me, so I graduated from nursing school back in December of 2019. And right when I graduated, instead of diving right into NCLEX and studying with NCLEX, I decided to go on a vacation and take a very well-deserved break because I was tired, okay? So I decided to go to Universal Studios over in Orlando, and I just took a break. I came back from my trip, and then I believe like the first week of January was when I first started studying for the NCLEX, and I had scheduled my actual exam date for February. I believe it was like the second week or first week of February. So I gave myself maybe like 3 weeks or 2 weeks to 3 weeks to study for the NCLEX. So I started studying for the NCLEX. I got UWorld, and I used UWorld throughout my whole process of studying for the NCLEX. I only use UWorld for the most part, and the subscription that I got was the one that was for 90-day access, and you got 2,000 plus questions, I'm looking down at my phone, 2,000 plus questions, 2 self-assessments, and it was for $199. So that was the one that I got for myself. So they have various different ones. You choose the one that you think is best for you, and each one allows you a different time of access to the actual application. So I got that one. So I initially started, and my goal was to do 75 questions per day. But I actually, to be very honest, I never actually did 75 questions a day, to be very honest. I worked 2 jobs, and I worked 2 jobs the whole entire time that I was in nursing school. So when I was studying for the NCLEX, same thing, I was working 2 jobs. So it was very difficult for me to sneak in time to study for the NCLEX. So basically what I did was I downloaded the app onto my iPhone, and whenever and wherever I had time to do questions, I would do them. So if I'm at work and in between registering patients, I'm doing real questions. That's just what I had to do. So it obviously took me a lot longer to go through the QBank because it was so slow. And to be very honest, when I initially started taking the questions and doing the questions on UWorld, I was doing terrible on them, like horrible. I was getting 30s and 40s on all of them, which caught me by surprise because I graduated from nursing school with honors. So I thought, okay, I don't think I'm gonna really need that much time to study, but I was wrong. I was definitely doing really bad on those UWorld questions. I think I started out in the 40th percentile, which is pretty low. And like I said, I was not doing well on them at all. 30s, 40s. I'll probably insert clips in this video of my actual UWorld app and how it looked like, just to show you guys proof. So I just want to show you guys my actual UWorld app. So what you're looking at right now are my test scores. Ooh, girl, a 48. Yeah, as you can see, they are low. So I just want to show you guys that initially I was doing really bad. So, You look at the scores right now. 60, 60, what, 56. Oh, a 72. That was rare, guys. 72 was really rare. But as you can see, they weren't that high initially, and I started doing better later on. Right here, what you're looking at are flashcards that I made in the UWorld app. In the end, I had a lot of flashcards that I made, and I just read them over and over again, and they were very helpful. So I would recommend making flashcards if you learn that way and it helps you. Definitely try that out. And if you look here, you see that I didn't use all my questions. I have 205 questions left. Like, just to show you guys proof, like, I was doing really badly on them. But the most important thing for me when I was studying for the NCLEX is the rationales. And UWorld, I think, gives you beautiful, exquisite, amazing rationales. That if you read those, even if you're bombing all the questions and you're doing horrible on them, as long as you are remediating and you're reading the rationales and you are understanding what you got wrong and why, you're good. I feel like that's the main part of studying, is just to understand what you got wrong, and don't focus on what you know. Like, if you know this answer, you know exactly why you got it right, and you know exactly, you understand everything about it, why spend a whole bunch of time on it? That's what I was doing initially. I was wasting too much time on things that I already knew and not enough time on things that I did not know. So I would remediate, and I would do my NCLEX UWorld questions with the test mode on, or I'm sorry, tutor mode on. So immediately when I hit submit for the answer that I think it is, it gives me the correct answer, and I can remediate right then and there, which I think it's, whoops, I almost dropped my phone, which I think is actually better than to go throughout the whole entire test and then go back and remediate. Initially, I was doing that, but I just felt like having to go back to remediate really was a waste of time. Like, at one point I had to, I was falling behind. I had like 6 tests that I took that I never actually remediated. So it's kind of like pointless, you know what I mean? So yeah, so I was going through and to the questions. Sometimes it probably usually took me about 2 days to go through 75 questions. I know. I watch a lot of other NCLEX study videos on YouTube, and everyone was like, I did 100 questions a day. I didn't do that. I did 75 questions every 2 days. I was going slow. Like, it's not a race, okay? Like, you go on your own pace. You're choosing to set the exam on whatever date you want. So you choose what's best for you. And like I said, I was working 2 jobs, and this is what was best for me. So gradually, slowly but surely, I was starting to improve, and I was starting to see my grades go up from 40s to 50s, to 60s, to 70s. I was getting happier because initially, like I said, I got really discouraged and really, really sad when I saw that I was doing so badly on them. Which brings me to my next point. So because I was doing so badly initially on the questions, I pushed my exam date back, which was the worst idea ever. I pushed it back to March. And unless you live under a rock, you know exactly what happened in March. Motherfreaking coronavirus. Okay, that's what happened. So the coronavirus situation happened, and they closed all the testing centers in the tri-state area. I mean, I live in New Jersey. I was looking all over New Jersey, all over New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Delaware, nothing. Everything was closed. And I was just looking at the dates. They were giving me emails of, oh, we're opening up again. You can pick a date. I'll pick a date. They'll cancel again. They canceled on me about 3 good times, okay? They kept canceling. They canceled me 3 times. And throughout this whole process of them canceling, I'm having meltdowns. Like, I'm crying. I have so much stress and anxiety because I just want to take this exam and get it over with. I just want to move on and start my nursing career. And obviously, this is the time period that you need nurses the most, okay, during this pandemic. And I couldn't do anything. Here I am with all these skills and all this nursing knowledge, and I'm sitting on the sidelines, not able to help because I don't have my license. So it was very stressful and very irritating. So finally, I was able to take the NCLEX, and let me tell you how I was able to take it. I thought to myself, actually my boyfriend came up with the idea. He was like, why don't you go out further? Like, past the tri-state area and go out to other states, okay? So first I wasn't even sure if I was allowed to do that because, like I said, I live in New Jersey. So I called, I think Pearson VUE, I think it was, I called and I asked them, am I able to take this exam somewhere else? And they were like, yeah, you can take the NCLEX examination anywhere in the US. And whatever state you actually registered with, it would just go back to that state and you were licensed for that state, okay? Regardless of where you took it. That's all I needed to hear. Say less, say no more. I went to the computer and I ended up booking my exam date for, I believe it was sometime in April. Yeah, it was April. In Indiana, of all places. And if you're wondering why Indiana, it's because my boyfriend lives in Indiana. So I was, okay, I can see him, you know, and I can take this test. So that's what I did. So yeah, so I flew to Indiana. I'll probably insert some clips of me going through the airport to get to Indiana, which of course is stressful in itself because who wants to travel in the middle of a pandemic during quarantine? But I felt like it was necessary. I know some people are going to be like, oh my God, why'd you travel, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, there was no way in hell that I was going to sit around and wait till, at some point they were saying that they weren't going to open the testing centers till like August or like September. And there was no way in hell I was about to sit here till September before I took this exam when I graduated. Remember, graduated back in December of 2019. No, I'm losing, I felt like I was losing a lot of knowledge, you know what I mean? And that would mean that I'd have to keep studying until September for the NCLEX. Not happening. So anyways, I went to Indiana and, you know, it's funny. It's so funny how things work out because I would have never in a million years thought that I would be taking my NCLEX in Fort Lee, Indiana, or Fort Wayne, Indiana, I think it was. But hey, everything happens for a reason. So, so when I actually get there and I'm sitting there on the computer and I'm taking this exam, and honestly, guys, that exam was the hardest exam that I have ever taken in my adult life. I felt like I was getting assaulted at this exam. I'm traumatized by it. It was really hard. And I will say this, okay, so UWorld did prepare me because I love the fact that UWorld actually looks just like the NCLEX does. So it's like you're really familiar with how it looks and everything. The questions are similar, but I will say that the NCLEX questions, in my opinion, were a lot harder, a lot more complex than the UWorld questions. It's just how I felt about it. So when I was taking the exam, I had a little mini meltdown because from question number 1, the first question, I was like, C question. I didn't know it. I was like, I don't know this answer. I'm out here winging it. Like, well, not winging it, but I'm taking educated guesses, I guess. I just wasn't really feeling confident in any of my answer choices. And I feel like when I talk to other people, a lot of people say the same thing, that they don't really walk out feeling confident. I had a little mini breakdown. I was like, Gloria, you are failing this exam. Like, you came all the way here. And oh my God, what happens if you fail? That's so embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. And this is like me psyching myself out, you know what I mean? So I honestly, in this exam, I stopped taking the exam. I said a little prayer, okay? Because I'm like, you know what? You worked so hard for this exam and you studied your ass off. So you're gonna take it one question at a time and hope and pray that it cuts off at 60 questions. And guys, I got to question number 59, hit that 60th question, answered it, machine cut off. Moment of relief. I was so freaking happy. I literally, I can't even explain to you. I was so happy when it cut off at 60. I was shocked that it cut off at 60. I was thinking I was gonna go the whole 130, but it cut off and I was so happy. So happy. So I was happy, of course, that the exam was over. But when I walked out, I was not feeling confident at all. I was like, I don't know. What if, you know, it could either be two things. Either I did really well and it cut off at 60, or I was doing so bad that this computer was like, you know what, this girl don't know nothing. Let me just stop right now and cut off at 60, you know what I mean? So I wasn't really sure. I was so nervous. So then let me just tell you guys real quick how I found out that I passed. So like maybe, I think it was 2 days later, I was like watching a movie or something with my boyfriend. I'm still in Indiana. I didn't leave yet. And one of my best friends calls me and she's like, congrats, you're a nurse, you passed. And I was like, what is this girl talking about? Because mind you, I had just checked the website and it said that my results weren't available yet. So I was like, Joanne, like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't get anything back. And she was like, you didn't? I'm like, no. So she hangs up or whatever. I'm like, looking at my boyfriend, like, what is she talking about? But she sounded so confident, you know? So then she calls me back and she's like, Gloria, like, you passed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't pass anything. I don't know what I got. And she was like, I went on to the New Jersey Board of Nursing website and I typed in your name, and your name comes up as somebody having an active RN license, which means you passed. Listen, I was like, I can't twerk. A girl cannot twerk, but I was like, no. I could not believe that I passed it. Tears of joy come down because, you know, you work so hard for this. And I just could not believe that I passed. It still feels really surreal, really surreal. But yeah, that was how I was able to take my NCLEX. I had to go to different states, fly there during the middle of a pandemic and quarantine, and go over there, and luckily I go past, and now I am a registered nurse. So let me just take a step back, and I want to just go a little bit more in detail about how I studied. So I kind of just want to go just a little bit more into detail about exactly how I studied for this exam. So UWorld starts with 2,100 questions, I believe, but I actually got 2,300 questions because mine came with the two self-assessment exams. And those self-assessment exams are actually 100 questions each, so additional 200 questions. By the time I finished the QBank and actually was able to take my exam, I think I had about like 170 or so questions left. So if I did the quick math, so I ended up doing about 2,130 questions in total. So again, that was for me starting from January and then finishing up in April. I think I took my exam April 14th. April 14th. So yeah, so that's how many questions I did. And besides doing UWorld questions, what I also did was I would go back and study whatever concepts I didn't understand. I would actually go back into my nursing lectures and nursing PowerPoints and reread on those topics. For example, so basically what I did was I got myself a notebook like this, and this was just for NCLEX. And whatever topics I didn't understand and had difficulty with, I would just go back and take notes on it, reread my notes from when I was in school, and that really helped me a lot. So for example, and you see, nice beautiful pink writing because I needed to, I like having my notes be all colorful and bright, just don't mind me. But yeah, this is all the notes that I was taking on things that I didn't understand or I wanted to clarify on. And so I would take notes in this book, and then apart from doing the UWorld questions, I would reread the notes in this book or this notebook. And then I also would carry around some PowerPoints that I, some PowerPoints of topics that I didn't really understand that well. And then lastly, what I did was I did do some math calculations because there is math on the NCLEX. I didn't get any math questions in my actual NCLEX, but you never know, you might get some. So I did go over some of that stuff. And then what I also did was I kept track of how many exams I had taken and how many times I had gone over that particular test. So each time I would create a new test, 75 questions, I would write it down. So test number 1. And then I would go through, and I think at the end I had about 29 tests that I created, right? 75 questions each. And I would mark down whether or not I had already remediated over that test before, just to help me keep track of which test I had actually gone over. As I told you at one point I was starting to fall behind, so that helped me as well. So the other thing I did, like I mentioned before, was I kept PowerPoints from my actual nursing notes of topics that I didn't understand. I have a whole bunch of them that I was walking around with. I had issue with peds. I had issue with mother-baby, some other baby concepts. This one I just pulled out of here is shock syndrome. So apparently I was having some issues with some shock syndrome and I was reading through it. So yeah, I just read through as much as I can, or as much as I could. So like I mentioned, I did purchase a UWorld package that came with 2 self-assessment examinations, and they were, like I said, additional 100 questions each. I did take both of them, and I would recommend that you actually get the two. I think it really, really helped me gauge to see how well I was doing. So when you're going to take the self-assessment examinations, just make sure you take it very seriously. Like, I went into a quiet room. It's timed, by the way. I went into a quiet room. I took it purely based on the knowledge I had. Like, I took it like the way I would the actual NCLEX. And when I finished the first one, I had a high chance of passing the NCLEX. That was what it told me when I was finished taking it. And then the second time I took it, same thing, high chance of passing the NCLEX. I think I was in the 85th percentile. Yeah, so I had gotten way, way better. But both times, I kind of scored the same both times. It wasn't like I was like low and then I got really high. Both times I took it, it told me that I had a high chance of passing the NCLEX. So again, that really helped me gauge and see how well I was, how well I was doing. And it helped me feel a lot more confident in myself. And I was like, you know what? You can actually do this, Gloria. You can actually pass it. So I would highly recommend getting the self-assessment examinations. It's a little more money, but it's definitely worth it. So before quarantine actually happened, I was actually studying with a partner. It was a girl from my nursing program, and we decided to study together, and we would meet up like twice a week at like the library or Panera Bread and just study. It was very helpful because sometimes you just get kind of tired, like so exhausted and so tired of studying by yourself. It was nice to have someone to study with. But of course, once quarantine and the whole coronavirus situation happened, we stopped doing that, and that kind of ended. But it was very helpful to study with somebody else. So if you have someone that you can study with, I would highly recommend that. I chose to do that because throughout my nursing program, when I was in school, I did study in groups, like the whole entire time. I don't know how people don't study in groups. Like, I have to. So I figured, why not do the same for the NCLEX? So it was helpful. I did do that as well. So before I end this video, I just want to give you guys some tips. So from what I've seen and what I've noticed is that you will need to focus on prioritization questions. The NCLEX is full of questions like that. Who you're going to see first, those type of questions. I know that a lot of people are really concerned with the medication aspect of the NCLEX. I did not study any medications. Like, how people have like flashcards of all these freaking meds? No, didn't do any of that. All I did was I took a piece of paper and I wrote down the major medications, like the classes or the that you know about, like the ARBs, the Sartans, the ACEs. I wrote down those ones, and I just tried my best to understand like the major side effects and things to know about those particular meds because they come up so much. Other than that, I paid no mind to the medications at all because I figured in real life, I mean, you can just right click on a med and see what it is and what it does and all the side effects and stuff like that. I feel like that's not going to be too, I didn't think it was going to be too heavy on the NCLEX, and I just didn't study for it. I didn't look at meds. Plus, it also gives me a freaking headache. No, thank you. I will pass. So take that as how you want it. You can study for the meds yourself if you want. I personally did not, and I still passed the 60 questions. Did I get medication questions? Of course I did. Did I pass it or answer it correctly? I don't know. But I still passed the NCLEX in 60 questions. So it is what it is. So some tips I want to give you for the NCLEX is just relax and breathe. And I know everyone says that, oh, just breathe, but literally relax. Do not do any questions the day of the exam. I just think it's pointless. The day before the exams, I didn't do any questions either. There's really no point in doing that. You don't want to psych yourself out. For me, if I do questions the day before the exam and I get something wrong, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything. And I'll freak out. So I don't do that. I didn't do any questions the day before the exam. I just, like I said, 75 questions. Like I said, 75 questions over a span of 2 days, going over what you didn't know in depth. Like, go back and look into your nursing notes, whatever you didn't know, read over it to make sure you understand it, meet up in groups. I mean, right now we can't meet up in groups, but that's what I did. And just trying to answer those questions as you possibly can on UWorld. So that's the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed and found it informative. And if you did, don't forget to like it, thumbs up, and subscribe. If there's anything that I didn't answer and you have some more questions and things I didn't cover, feel free to comment down below. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.